Since we've all been so limited in our movements, it's rather easy to forget just how different this pandemic looks in different parts of the country. And while we've seen many cities overtaken by the fight against the coronavirus, hunkering down and staying in, there are some parts of the country where the effects of the crisis haven't even been felt. Our Matt Gutman visited some of these communities while on a road trip home and filed this report.
Whipped by the wind, the welcome booth at this Badlands campground may seem like the loneliest place on the planet.
Okay, so you need it for 2 nights.
Except Cedar Pass campground caretaker Gio Faviola, stationed in her booth along with that jug of hand sanitizer, has company coming.
It's not available on Saturday night, no.
Gio drove out here from Massachusetts. Now, she'd been planning to flee an accounting job anyway. Then came COVID.
Being out here, I don't see it as much as if I was back in Massachusetts or in a bigger city.
Yeah.
So I'm not as exposed to it. It becomes real to me when I go to the food center to restock my supplies, where they only let one person in at a time.
That's because locals here are desperate to keep the virus out.
And this county here has no cases whatsoever.
Oh, so this is a county with 0 cases?
Jackson County has no cases. We've never had a case. We've tried to maintain that case because once we get a case, it could mean the closure of all of us. We are the concession of the national parks.
And they have been busy. So-called COVID refugees coming from all over. This man had just pulled up from Baltimore.
You stopped seeing the masks?
We stopped seeing masks as we got further west into Minnesota. Up until then, we were seeing them pretty consistently. By the time we got within 100 miles of the Minnesota-South Dakota border, they didn't even have X's on the floors in most of the convenience stores and gas stations and stuff.
My producer, Robert Zepeda, and I spent the past week driving from Minneapolis back to Los Angeles, visiting parts of the country that have had few or no COVID cases. Places where almost no one wears a mask, where people still try to shake your hand and go to indoor water parks like this one in Rapid City, South Dakota, and where people still have places to go. Encountering a surprising amount of traffic in Denver, where there are over 2,500 cases. And there, zipping across South Dakota's grasslands, we found Cedar Pass and Gio, the accountant turned campground caretaker who has been diligently spacing out her campers.
They're just on the road trying to stay isolated.
We saw spacious RVs and college kids pitching tents.
Were you cooped up in Minnesota? Is there like a shelter-at-home order?
In Duluth, yeah, a little bit. There's nothing really open.
We then headed west from the Badlands castles of clay and rock to Mount Rushmore. There we found the Carl family from Iowa, who had the presidents mostly to themselves.
It's open. I don't feel bad about using it.
Yeah,
so, that's the way it is. And if people didn't want to be around other people, then don't go to public places.
Westward, the Black Hills giving way to wide open plains.
Okay, our third state, Wyoming.
South Dakota and Wyoming are 2 of just 8 states without statewide shelter-at-home orders. We stopped in tiny Hartville, Wyoming, which says it's the oldest incorporated town in the state, a place everyone knows each other. Tasha runs the post office here, which still has those brass P.O. boxes.
If you're sick, stay home. Other than that, open everything back up. These small businesses are struggling. I think it's time.
Yeah. So in America, one size doesn't fit all.
No, us small people are completely different than LA or New York or bigger cities.
Across the street, the owners of the Miners and Stockman Steakhouse, Scott and Christine, felt the same way. From there to the county seat, Wheatland, Wyoming.
Platte County here is the kind of place where people still reach out to shake your hand. It's got a population of 9,000, 0 COVID positive cases. That's one reason the EMS director told us he's got to treat everybody from the outside like us, like they have the plague. And when you talk to folks here, they say they have been social distancing all their lives because places like this are so rural.
That EMS chief, his name is Terry Stevenson.
You're from out of state, so we're going to treat you like you have the plague.
Out here, he says, people rely on their common sense.
Would you say the town is open, closed? I mean, how would you describe Wheatland right now?
We have been impacted. I would say that most people would describe it as a partial closure. The governor did not give a stay-at-home order. His explanation was, when it's raining, nobody should have to tell you to put on a raincoat. So we've got a disease going around. Nobody should tell you you have to stay home.
But eventually, he knows COVID will come here, too. Down the street, Dan Brecht owns the Wandering Hermit bookshop.
We've done pretty well. You know, people who don't have anything to do read books, or they want to get a jigsaw puzzle, or they get a board game.
But Brecht worries about the rest of the town. Ned Resch is the CEO of the Platte County Memorial Hospital, one of the friendly folks who innocently reached out to shake my hand.
When we first met just a few minutes ago, your inclination was to reach out and shake my hand.
It's such a habit, right?
He says he's been locked and loaded for weeks, but no COVID patients yet.
At heart, they're caregivers. They want to provide care. They want to touch the patient. They want to care for the patient. And so, on the one hand, I think there's this, anxiousness, as you said, to provide care for the patient. But on the other hand, I think there's a lot of gratitude that it hasn't impacted our community and we've been safe from it.
Rural hospitals across the country bracing for the same. The earlier they are in the COVID outbreak, the longer they must forego revenue-generating treatments, and the more likely they are to face financial collapse.
One of the good things is we're part of a larger system, Banner Healthcare, and so we're able to draw on support from Banner Health, and not only just for the financial side of things, but also lessons learned around COVID.
Back at the Cedar Pass campground, we continue our walkabout with Gio.
Hazel?
Hazel had hitched her trailer and set out a few weeks ago.
Are you trying to stay in sort of COVID-light states?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Actually, that's what I did. I looked at who was lighter blue, and it was South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming.
Almost everyone we spoke to believed that COVID would come, even here to the wind-beaten Badlands, and that no one would see normal anytime soon.
Because we've never experienced anything like this before, and a lot of people will be suffering from that PTSD that, okay, should I go out, take one step out and risk that? I think it's going to be a slow going, trying to get everything going back to normal, what the new normal is.
Our thanks to Matt for that piece.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.